All right, we are back with our special coverage after the debate with State Rep Leslie Herod, a Democrat representing Denver in the State House, and State Senator Jim Smallwood, a Republican who represent the fine folks in Dougco. Thanks for sticking around tonight. We sure appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Let's get into it. So just minutes into the debate, Trump mentions that immigrants are taking over towns like Aurora, Colorado. He also made a mention that immigrants were eating the pets of a town in Springfield, Ohio. These are, of course, he was fact-checked on the last ones. These are really wild at times claims, sometimes false, sometimes exaggerations. But immigration is a big issue for both Democrats and Republicans. So let's start with you, Jim. How is immigration going to play out in this election, and will these claims be on voters' minds come November?
I think immigration is absolutely going to be on voters' minds, particularly in places like Colorado. So as far as the exact numbers, behaviors, that type of thing, I'm sure we could, again, re-debate that all night, but it is a concern for sure, and it's not going away. So again, one of the disappointing things about the debate, I don't know if it was the format or the candidates' answers, was we really didn't get into the details as to what is going to be done, what is the actual plan. I would have loved to have heard from Vice President Harris what the plan is going to be to handle this, particularly over the next several years, decades, when it starts to impact American jobs, for example, when it's impacting housing. We're already in a state that is facing a housing crisis. If we need to house another 40, 50, 100,000 folks, how is that going to be handled? Once we know how it's going to be handled on the national stage, hopefully it'll help our local leaders as well follow suit.
Leslie?
Jim and I agree. Immigration is a huge issue, not only for Colorado, but for this country, quite frankly. And I do wish there was more time spent on this topic specifically. But I want to be clear that what we heard from Trump was a lot of rhetoric that, again, we saw on Twitter. We need to be very specific about what's happening in Aurora. There is no overtaking of apartment buildings in Aurora. And the people of Aurora, quite frankly, do not want this rhetoric about their city spreading like wildfire throughout the nation. But what we do need to focus on is making sure that everyone is safe in their communities, right? And that's what the people of Aurora deserve, an honest conversation about what people need in that area to truly be safe, as opposed to this kind of toxic environment that's being created now to stow division during an election cycle. I think that's a huge problem. But what we also know is that Trump, J.D. Vance, and the MAGA Republicans stopped the most comprehensive immigration reform policy and package that we have ever seen in this nation from progressing forward. And so the question is, do people care more and politicians care more about winning political debates or about the people in this country? And quite frankly, what we saw with the killing of the last immigration reform bill is that there are some who really just care about this rhetoric and not moving this country forward, and there's others who have plans to do so.
All right, I want to zoom out a little bit from tonight specifically. It was a Trump-Harris race, say, roughly 100, 500, 600, 7 days out from the election. We're 55, 56 days out from it now. Incredibly short amount of time from what we're used to. But do you think it's been enough time for both of these candidates to show and teach people who they are before they vote? Let's start with you, Leslie.
Listen, I think we need to hear more debates, quite frankly. I hope that both of our candidates agree to debate more. I actually don't mind a shorter election season, quite frankly, because we do see the divisiveness that's being stoked in our communities in order to gain political points, and quite frankly, it's not okay. And I think the voters, and I'm hearing it from people right now, are watching this debate, are paying attention to what's going on in politics, and are really trying to make informed decisions about where they want this country to go. And again, I think tonight we were shown that Kamala Harris is the right person to lead this nation. Now the race is tight. Yeah. We would not see her come out and polling percentage points being through the roof. Quite frankly, it is going to be a tight race.
It's going to be tight. Jim, why don't you have the last word on this? Has it been enough? It's been very brief, what we're used to.
Yeah, I also want more policy details, but I think generally speaking, Americans already have seen the results of both administrations. Most Americans have lived through a Trump administration, and they've lived through a Biden-Harris administration. And when Americans go to the polls and they remember stock market, they remember inflation, And not to belabor that point, but just because inflation isn't as crazy as it once was, we still have an inflation problem. We still have a crime problem. We still have an immigration problem. So when Americans go to the polls and say, look, I lived under a Trump presidency, I've lived under a Biden-Harris administration, where was I better off?
All right.
I think they're going to have a lot of that information already.
On behalf of both of us, all of us at Number 7, thanks for spending the time with us. You really helped us enlighten the evening. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your perspective.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.